Therefore, whosoever heareth these sayings of mine, and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man, which built his house upon a rock. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock. And every one that heareth these sayings of mine, and doeth them not, shall be likened unto a foolish man, which built his house upon the sand. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. Matthew, the 7th chapter, verses 24 through 27. Many people have read this scripture and believe that Jesus was giving a warning against building near the sea. Some people have come to my channel and said, Florida Maquis, how can you live in Florida? Knowing how close it is to the ocean, and they've warned me of sea level rise and floods and all this kind of stuff. I truly believe what was being said here had nothing to do with advice on geographical location for building a house. It has to do with the temple of God, which we are. Rational versus emotional behavior. Right now, in this country, there are two groups of people. One group is using their mind and thought and rational thinking to make their decisions. The other group is simply being blown about by the wind of emotion. That is what I believe that scripture is about. Because anybody who would build their house upon such things like emotion, it's only a matter of time before those emotions change. The foundations are removed and the house collapses. This is what the vast majority of our young people and liberals are taught. What am I supposed to feel in reaction to everything? None of it is based on the rock of rational thought. It's all based on the shifting sands of emotions. Now, I actually have proof for that. There are 3 articles out in the mainstream media today that correlate directly with an image I used a long time ago saying this is coming. Now, not to be too graphic, but the 2 images on the left represent men driven to the point of desperation, homeless, no money, forced into the streets, begging. And in the lower left was about as circumspect as I could be relating to how this might affect women being forced into situations that are somewhat worse. Being forced to do things that they never thought they would have to do just to put food on the table. Story number 1, Fox News. New York City sex workers rampant in open-air prostitution market amid lax enforcement. This is the fulfillment of my statement. New York City was so proud not very long ago, having cleaned all of this up. This used to be rampant in the 70s, the 1970s, 1980s. They cleaned up everything and they got rid of it, and they were so proud. It was one of their crowning achievements. Now it's back. And this time it's here to stay. Until they change things, which I don't see happening in my lifetime. That's the reality of what's going on in the North. Article number 2. This was off of CNN, but I pulled it off of binnews.com because that seems a little bit more appropriate because that's where most of CNN belongs. But they are right about this. Minimum wage workers can't afford rent anywhere in the U.S. And they go through this long diatribe of how we need to raise minimum wage, not realizing that that's exactly going to exacerbate the problem because employers are just going to jack up the cost of everything to counteract the effect of having to pay more, and everything will be more expensive and you'll be right back where you started. But they don't ask a question about this. You see, the answer to this is obvious. The story here is that You can't make enough on a minimum wage job to have a 2-bedroom home. Well, what do people do? They get a roommate. Sometimes single moms will get together and they'll get a place and work opposite shifts so that one can provide childcare for all the kids while the other works, and vice versa. And they can split expenses. I'm sure many people know the economics of what I'm talking about. But isn't that a good thing? See, the left is decrying it right now. But wait a minute. I thought the answer to global warming was for everybody to go jam up into the cities and live communally. How many years have they attacked and derided the suburbs? All these people with their SUVs and extra cars and riding lawnmowers and wasting all that fuel and creating traffic jams. For years and years and years, they said this was a problem, that something needed to change. Well, now they've changed their tune. Now they want to increase people's wages. They want to see people getting homes and moving out to the burbs, which goes directly against all of their preaching on global warming. See, this is what happens when you use emotion to make your decisions. This is the shifting sands. Their new opinion can't agree with their other old opinion. They're mutually exclusive. Either you live in the cities, jammed up 2 and 3 and 4 to a unit, protecting the planet, or you go live in the suburbs and be part of the problem. But wait, people should make more so that they can afford to live on their own in their own 2-bedroom house or own 3-bedroom house. They can't explain this and they can't rationalize it. Why? Because it's all based on emotion. Everything the left does is based on the shifting sands of emotion. Now, third article. 66% of Republicans in southern United States and nearly half of West Coast Democrats want to secede from country as division grows. I thought Joe Biden was going to be the great uniter. See, they can say whatever they want. The reality is going to catch up with them. This is a tweet from somebody, I don't even know who this individual is, but it's indicative of the left's thinking. Most disturbing data point I've seen in a while. 2/3 of Southern Republicans now say the South should break away from the Union, up from 50% in January of this year. 66% of people living in the South. And you see how they have everything broken up here? The West, the Mountain, the Heartland, the South, the Northeast. It looks oddly familiar, doesn't it? To a map I created and I have been showing for a long time. Now, there are some slight differences, but generally speaking, it's the same group. And hey, I'm all for if California, Oregon, and Washington, they want to go their own way. God bless them. Good luck. Have a great time. Just like we should. Now, it's funny here they have Virginia actually being part of the South, which is odd, but not perfect. We'll take West Virginia, but Virginia is much more like the Northeast. But this is how they did, this Brightline Watch did its polling. In these 5 regions, I wonder how they chose where to draw the lines. It's coming. It's mostly already here. This is what happens when you make choices like they've made. And one other question I would like to ask any leftist out there and some of my more conservative audience. This story about New York City sex workers rampant in open-air prostitution market amid lax enforcement. Do sex workers earn minimum wage? Do sex workers earn minimum wage? No, of course they don't. It's largely all under the table, cash income, no taxes being paid on it. At least in New York, where it's not legal. I think they have a different arrangement in Las Vegas, but that's not the point. So why isn't Biden decrying this? All these people avoiding paying taxes. I thought that was, something you're supposed to do patriotically to support Joe Biden and his infrastructure plan. Why are there people not just out marching for minimum wage for these people? They're not. And that's key. That's key. We are not going to stop. If anyone says, why don't you do something to bring the country together instead of dividing it, this is your answer. This is your answer. What fellowship hath the children of light with the children of darkness? Many people have thought that when the crash comes, it's going to affect everyone everywhere equally. Wrong. That's absolutely wrong. As the crash comes, it's going to be a slow collapse and things are going to start to fall apart, and then it's going to start to accelerate. And places that have built their house upon the rock, like Florida, are going to be all right. It's not going to be easy, but we're going to be all right. Places like New York, California, Chicago, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Minneapolis, Portland. Yeah, you bet. It's going to be Armageddon. They even ran a map out here. This is from CNN, a link that shows you how much you have to earn to get a 2-bedroom apartment. What they really are talking about here is if a 2-bedroom apartment would exceed 30% of the expendable income of someone earning minimum wage. So you technically can't afford it. You've just got to cut back in other ways. You see, what they call unaffordable is anybody spending over 30% on housing and utilities. See, that's what they say when they mean not affordable. It's of course affordable. You just got to be able to make different decisions. If you have a minimum wage job earning 40 hours a week and that rent is more than 30%, perhaps you maybe need to do something on the side, something from home. People do that all the time. Supplement the income a little bit to make yourself a little bit more comfortable. This doesn't explain the rampant tent encampments of homeless people in California, Oregon, Washington, New York, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin. They're trying to bend themselves into pretzels, trying to somehow find some emotion that's going to be able to get them through another day. But it's not going to work. The sex worker trade in New York is ramping back up because of their decisions. Minimum wage workers and secession. These are things that I had talked about a long time ago, and was called crazy for talking about it. It's now happening. It's now real. And all I'm going to reinforce to those of us here in the South, keep your money in the South. Vote with your money, vote with your feet every day. Continue to show them the error of their ways and why the events of November 2020 through January, those things are going to have consequences far beyond what they thought. And I'll leave it there, and I know you know what I'm talking about. God bless. Like, share, subscribe, and we will see you guys tonight on Twitch.